Welcome back to another video. In this video, we're going to build an artifact to scan machines for processes running outside of the Windows and program files directories. Let's get into it. So we're in the Blue Genie console, and the first thing we want to do is make sure that we know what the command is for getting a process list. So in order to do that, we can actually just type in bghelp process. We get a handful of things. Now, if you scroll down, you'll see get a full list of processes. That's probably what we want to pull, and in this case it is. So we're actually going to use this command. So now we can quit. We'll clear screen, and we'll do a walk, which is the help information. So this is going to gather the help information from this command. And we can see that this says, get a full list of processes with all linked properties, including parent processes, process owner information. It could pull command line, so on and so forth. So what we want to do is use this command with a couple of different filter types. So we have a filter type of name. Let's see what other filter types we have. So we're actually going to type in help. And this goes in each one of the parameter names. And now we can type in filter type. And it gives us a list of items that it will take. So we can see that this is a validation set, and it will pull caption, command line, name, process ID, path, process owner, process hash. The list goes on and on of all the properties that it can pull and do a parameter, which is a registry, a regex parsing on that specific property. In this case, we're actually going to use the path, because we want to identify anything not in the Windows directory and not in program files or program files x86. So now that we know what our filter type is going to be, now we can actually just build the command. So like I've said in other videos, we usually always test on the host just to make sure that our query comes back with data. Once we have that, we'll build the artifact, we'll export it, and then we'll run it. So we're going to clear screen, and we're going to start using that command or building that command. So here, the first thing we're going to do is get bg process list. We're going to set that filter type to what we just spoke about, which is going to be path. And you can see if I hit space and then control space, it shows all of the items in the validation set that can be selected. So we have all of our items, and we're just going to pick the path item. And now we're going to do a pattern. So the pattern is our filter, and this filter, we're going to use a regex expression to say not to select two or more identifying paths. So it's really going to be 3, but it's only going to be called with 2 different calls, and I'll show you what that looks like. So the first thing we want to do is build an expression so that it's easier to manage our selected string information. And now we're going to build our regex. So in this case, we're going to do an open and a close bracket, paren. We're going to do a question mark and an exclamation. And this is a not look ahead for regex. We're going to put the variable identifier as 0, and I'll show you what that is. It's going to be our string formatter. We're putting 2 slashes in for our escape because we want a single slash. So a single slash escape is a double slash in this case. And then we're going to do Windows. We're going to put the pipe sign in for OR. We're going to rebuild our 0 identifier for our formatting string. We're going to do another 2 backslashes for a single slash in regex, and we're going to look at program files. And in this case, we're going to close it off with the close paren. We're going to do a dot asterisk for any data that is after that. So in this case, it's going to pick up any folder with program files and program files x86. They'll be picked up as a not directory. And then we're going to use a $sign to say the end of the string. And with that said, it looks like I missed the beginning of the string. So we're using a caret return, so shift 6, which is the beginning of the string. $ is the end of the string in regex. Then we put our open and close paren for the information that we want to look for. We're looking for a variable 0 or a formatting string of 0, Windows, and 0 program files. And what we want to do after the double quotes is we want to put our format identifier, which is the F, and then we want to put in our variable of system drive. And so now what's going to happen is the environment variable, environment system drive, will populate into those squiggly bracket 0 identifiers to rebuild and format the string correctly. And I'm not statically assigning a path. This is variabilized. So that means if or when this runs on another machine, let's say that their system drive is D or X or something like that, it will pick that up, and we're not hard coding a variable path, so it doesn't find it at all. This way, it's very dynamic and it pulls that information from the remote machine. So now that we have our query, like I said previously on other videos, we want to, the return for any of these commands by default in BlueGenie are hash tables. We want to return that either as an object or an unescaped JSON or even YAML. So we can actually do that. So we could do a return object or out-escape JSON, so we could see all that information. We can even do out YAML. And in this case, we'll do out YAML just so we can see it in a different format. So if we hit enter, this is now going to do a live process list, find all the processes that are running, filter them by path, and remove any path or any process that has started in the Windows directory or the program files or program files x86 directory. And then it will give us back what is left. And so right now you could see we picked up on, not even going too far, we picked up on a process ID of 716. The parent process was cmd.exe. The path of the file that ran was the source GitLab BlueGenie. So this is where BlueGenie ran from. So you could see that it ran outside of program files x86, and Windows, and so it was picked up. You can see that there's other items as well. Services had no path. That's the way services runs. So it was identified as not being under Windows, and you'll have a few of those different items. So here you have the syntaxer.exe. You have a command line, so it shows you all relative data on what things are running behind the scenes. So it's really, really intelligent data, and you can find out what's running on all your remote machines outside of the installation/administrative installation locations that were originally identified. And you can tell if there's anything rogue running in a user's temp space, off the root, so on and so forth. So this is really, really good, good way to track any of that information. All right, with that said, now we know that this works. We can now identify, or we can now flag that in a hunt or an artifact, and then process that information on the remote machines. So here we're going to do a clear screen. We're going to do a quick look on settings to make sure that there's nothing there. It's empty. It's all default. We now want to take that command that we just ran, and instead of outputting it to YAML, we just want to remove that flag. We want to type in commands as the function, add as the parameter, specify this data in a single quote, so it's static text, so it doesn't take in any of our variables. They stay the same and they're processed on the remote side, not on the host side. So you can see how the entire line went blue. We hit enter. The information was populated into the commands list, and you can see that the formatting string did not change, so that's going to be processed on the remote side. If we do settings, we can still make sure that get process list, filter path, pattern, and then the pattern is specific, and everything looks valid. Now we need systems to run this on. So we're actually going to export this information and run that on the CLI. So here we're going to do artifacts, export, and we're going to do process scan. So now we have our YAML. We'll just copy that information. And now we'll exit BlueGenie. We'll clear screen. And at this point, we're going to execute BlueGenie at the CLI. We're going to do a sys to grab all the systems we want to pull into that that identifier or that variable. And here we're going to do a group. So now we're going to do an 80 group, which we normally do in this case. And we're going to do a bg scan 001. That is the 80 group. We're going to do a /a for our artifact. We paste that in, and we're going to type in run. With that said, we hit enter, and the process begins. The YAML file will be imported. All of our computers will be pulled from AD, and then our job starts. So all of our computers that we identified are now, they now have a remote connection already established to all of them. They are all processing the command that we just sent. And in a minute or two, we'll have the return data, and then we can parse that as well. All right. Now that our job has finished scanning, we can take a look in the transaction folder. We see that the job that just ran, we can go into that directory, look in the completed list. We can see a handful of items. Like I said before, a lot of these 685s are offline machines. We do have 3 dedicated machines online at all times for testing. And this is AD, this is a Windows 10 normal machine, Windows 10 Dev, which is what I'm running on. And then we have a Windows 7 SP1. And they're all running different versions of PowerShell on the remote side. So the Windows 7 SP1 has PowerShell 2, the Windows 10 has 5, both Windows 10s have 5, and the Active Directory has either 4.1 or 5 as well. So let's do that one, Windows 10 Dev, so we could see that information as well. Again, a huge compressed JSON. This format JSON to beautify the JSON is just awesome. It makes life so much easier. So now this is cool because now you can actually see some of these things, right? We knew that the path for BlueGenie was running outside, but not only did it capture the path and tells us that this executable, because we were running on dev, was running, but it also shows the command line. So if you're ever in need of trying to find out information and you're like, oh, I want to know, not only do I want to know the path, but you can actually look at that command line and see if there's anything going on that's malicious and that should be identified and flagged in other artifacts to do more scans. So this is great information that was pulled back from the dev box. So you can see that path was a little, came back with a couple of extra characters in its name when processing that, and so that's why the con host was flagged. Everything else was in normal system stuff. You could see here's a path. This one was in program data. So things like that that are actually running that maybe should not be, you can capture this and then report against it or take action. Well, that's it for our walkthrough on how to grab items that are running, grab any processes that are running outside of the Windows and program files x86 directories. I appreciate you watching the video. Thank you very much, and I hope to catch you guys on the next one.